The message came through the Deep Space Relay Network on a Tuesday morning. Ambassador Taemin Park was drinking his morning coffee when the priority alert flashed across his desk screen. He set down his cup and read the message 3 times before. He truly believed what he was seeing. The Galactic Council wanted to meet with humanity. For over 200 years, humans had spread across nearby star systems. They had built colonies, traded with a few alien species, and slowly learned about the massive galactic community that existed beyond their small corner of space. But the Galactic Council had never acknowledged them directly. Earth's diplomatic messages went unanswered. Trade requests were ignored. Humanity existed in the galaxy, but they were invisible to its rulers. Now that had changed. Tae-min called his team immediately. Commander Biora Kim arrived first, her military uniform crisp despite the early hour. She had been Earth's military advisor for alien affairs for 10 years. Behind her came Dr. Woo Jin Lee, a tall man with gentle eyes who knew more about alien technology than anyone on Earth. Last was Sora Choi, young but brilliant, who specialized in alien cultures and languages. "This could be our chance," Sora said after reading the message. Her eyes were bright with excitement, real recognition. A seat at the table with the galaxy's major powers. Biora was less enthusiastic. Or it could be a trap. Why now? What changed? Woo Jin studied the technical details of the message. The transmission came directly from Nexus Prime? That's the Council's central station? If they're inviting us there, this is serious. Taemin nodded slowly. As Earth's chief diplomat for alien affairs, he had dreamed of this moment. But Biora's caution was wise. The galaxy was not always friendly to newcomers. The invitation was formal and cold. It requested representatives of the human species to attend a session of the Galactic Council to discuss matters of mutual interest. No details, no explanation of why now. Just coordinates and a date 3 weeks away. "We have to go," Taemin decided. "Whatever their reasons, this is the opportunity we've been waiting for." The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Earth's government approved the mission quickly. The media was excited. Humanity was finally going to meet the great powers of the galaxy as equals. The journey to Nexus Prime took 12 days through hyperspace. Their ship, the diplomatic vessel Harmony, was one of Earth's newest and most advanced. Taemin wanted to make a good impression. As they approached the massive space station, the team gathered on the bridge to see it for the first time. Nexus Prime was enormous. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers in all directions, a gleaming city in space that housed millions of beings from across the galaxy. "Look at the size of it," Woo Jin whispered. "Some of those sections are bigger than our largest cities." Ships from dozens of species moved around the station like insects around a hive. Taemin recognized a few designs from Earth's databases, but most were completely alien. Some were beautiful, flowing like sculptures. Others were purely functional. All angles and armor, the Harmony was guided to a small docking bay in what appeared to be a secondary section of the station. Biora noted this with a frown. Not exactly a red carpet welcome. Their escort was a tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes. It spoke through a translation device in a flat, emotionless voice. "You are the humans. Follow." The corridors of Nexus Prime were impressive but overwhelming. The ceiling soared high above them, designed for species much larger than humans. Alien beings moved past them without a glance. Some floated in bubbles of gas. Others walked on multiple legs or slithered along the floor. A few seemed to be made of living crystal or metal. "We're definitely not in Kansas anymore," Sora murmured. Her excitement now mixed with nervousness. They were led to a small meeting room in what their escort called the Junior Diplomatic Section. The room was plain and simple, with basic furniture that could be adjusted for different body types. After the grandeur of the station's main areas, it felt like a storage closet. "The Council will see you tomorrow," their escort announced. "Do not leave this area without permission." That night they reviewed their presentation one final time. Taemin would speak about Earth's desire for peaceful cooperation. Wu Jin would showcase humanity's scientific achievements. Sora would discuss cultural exchange opportunities. Biora would remain silent unless security matters arose. Remember, Taemin told his team, we're representing all of humanity. Let's show them we belong here. The council chamber was vast. 12 raised platforms surrounded a central speaking area, each one designed for a different species. Taemin and his team were directed to a small platform barely large enough for the four of them. The council members were impressive and intimidating. Kristarch Velthane, the prime speaker, was a being of living crystal that caught and reflected the chamber's lights. Its voice resonated through the translation system like wind chimes. Other members included what appeared to be a cloud of intelligent gas, several insect-like creatures with clicking mandibles and various other forms of alien life. The human delegation may speak, Velthane announced, its tone suggesting this was a great favor. Tae-Min stepped forward. Honored members of the Galactic Council, humanity comes before you in friendship and respect. We seek to join the galactic community as partners in peace and progress. A sound that might have been laughter came from one of the platforms. Another council member made a noise like grinding metal. The young mammals seek partnership, clicked one of the insect beings. How amusing. Velthane's crystalline form shifted, catching the light differently. Humanity has existed in space for barely 2 of your centuries. We have governed the galaxy for thousands of your years. What could you possibly offer us? Taemin felt heat rise in his cheeks but kept his voice steady. We offer fresh perspectives, new technologies, and the energy of a species still growing and learning. Fresh perspectives, repeated the gas cloud entity, its voice like whispers. You mean primitive viewpoints? Wu Jin stepped forward with his tablet displaying Earth's achievements. If I may, our technological development has been rapid. We've mastered fusion power, quantum computing, and faster-than-light travel in just a few centuries. The insect being's mandibles clicked rapidly. Fusion power? How quaint. We mastered such things before your star was born. Quantum computing? Basic tools for infants? Your achievements are our ancient history, Sora tried next. Perhaps we could discuss cultural exchange. Human art, literature, and music might interest your peoples. Cultural exchange with primitives? The gas being swirled dismissively. What could barely evolved mammals teach civilized beings? The humiliation continued for hours. Every human achievement was dismissed as primitive. Every offer of cooperation was mocked. The council members spoke about humanity as if they weren't even present, discussing the young species like parents. Talking about troublesome children, finally, Velthane called for order. The council has reached a decision regarding the human request. Taemin straightened, hoping against hope that something positive might come from this disaster. Humanity will be granted limited trading rights in the Outer Rim territories, Velthane announced. In exchange for this privilege, 80% of all profits will be paid to the council as administrative fees. The Outer Rim? Biora spoke, for the first time unable to hide her shock. A problem with this generous offer? Velthane asked, though its tone suggested the question was rhetorical. Tae-Min knew about the Outer Rim. It was the lawless edge of galactic civilization, filled with pirates, failed colonies, and desperate refugees. It was where the council dumped problems they didn't want to deal with. We'll need to consider this offer, Taemin managed. Of course, Velthane said, its crystalline form somehow managing to convey smugness. Take all the time you need. We're sure you'll see the wisdom in accepting our generosity. As the council session ended, Taemin felt his dreams of galactic partnership crumbling around him. They had come seeking equality and respect. Instead, they had found arrogance and contempt, but something else was growing in his chest alongside. The disappointment. Something harder and more dangerous. Anger. The next morning brought no relief from the previous day's humiliation. Taemin and his team returned to the council chamber with heavy hearts, but determined to try again. Perhaps yesterday had just been a bad start. Perhaps they could still find a way to earn the respect they sought. They were wrong. The second session. began with Christarch Velthane announcing the day's agenda. Today we will hear the humans' response to our generous offer. We will also allow them to present any additional materials they believe might interest us. The way Velthane said materials made it clear that nothing the humans could offer would be impressive. But Taman pressed on. Honored council members, we are grateful for your offer regarding the Outer Rim territories. However, we hoped we might discuss other possibilities for cooperation. A sound like static filled the chamber from the insect being's platform. Other possibilities? You reject our generosity? Not reject, Taman said carefully. We simply wonder if there might be ways for humanity to contribute more meaningfully to galactic civilization. Meaningfully? The gas cloud entity swirled faster. What meaning could primitives add to our ancient civilization? Wujin stepped forward again, his tablet displaying detailed technical readouts. Our fusion technology is actually quite advanced. We've achieved efficiency rates of 96% with minimal waste products. One of the insect beings made a grinding noise. 96%? Our young learned to achieve 99% efficiency in their first year of technical education. But our quantum computers, Wujin continued, can process information at speeds that we surpassed millions of years ago, interrupted. A new voice from a platform they hadn't heard from before. The speaker appeared to be made of flowing metal. Your quantum computers are toys compared to our neural matrix systems. Wujin's face reddened. He had spent his life studying these technologies. On Earth, he was considered a genius. Here, he was being treated like a child showing off crayon. Drawings to adults. Sora tried a different approach. Perhaps we could share our cultural achievements. Human music has evolved in unique ways because of our diverse planetary environment. Music? Velthane's crystal form seemed to shiver with amusement. You mean the random noise young species make before they develop true artistic understanding? Our literature explores themes of growth, change, and adaptation, Sora continued, her voice growing smaller. Stories that might offer new perspectives on new perspectives? The metal being flowed into a different shape. Child, we have perspectives that span geological ages. Your species has existed for mere moments. What could you possibly understand about life, growth, or change that we have not already explored in depth? The humiliation continued systematically. Every human achievement was dismissed. Every offer was mocked. The council members seemed to take pleasure in demonstrating humanity's insignificance. Your medicine? Laughed one being that looked like a walking tree. We eliminated disease before your ancestors left the trees. Your space travel? Clicked the insects. Crude rocket propulsion barely worthy of primitive civilizations. Your artificial intelligence? Swirled the gas entity. Simple programs. Compared to the true digital consciousness we achieved eons ago. Bo'er watched the proceedings with growing anger. She had remained silent as ordered, but watching her colleagues being humiliated was becoming unbearable. These aliens were treating humanity like children playing at being adults. The worst part was how casual their contempt seemed. They weren't even angry or threatened by humanity. They were simply bored by them. Like adults forced to listen to a kindergarten class presentation. Your governmental systems? Velthane asked with apparent curiosity. Democracy, we believe you call it? How charmingly primitive. Rule by mob consensus rather than by wisdom and experience? Democracy has served us well, Taman said, fighting to keep his voice level. It ensures that all voices are heard and all voices? The tree being rustled what might have been leaves. Including the ignorant, the inexperienced, the foolish? How wonderfully chaotic. We prefer rule by those who have earned wisdom through age and achievement. Speaking of achievement, said the metal being, what exactly has humanity achieved that would qualify you for meaningful participation in galactic affairs? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Taman looked around the chamber at beings who claimed to be millions of years old, who had built this massive station, who controlled trade and politics across countless star systems. We've survived, he said finally. We've grown, we've learned. The silence that followed was Somehow worse than the laughter had been. Survived? Velthane repeated slowly. How basic, most species survive, human. Survival is the minimum requirement for existence, not an achievement worthy of recognition. You've grown? The gas entity swirled dismissively. Growth is inevitable. For young species, it is not wisdom or accomplishment. And you've learned? The insects clicked rapidly. Learned what? How to make fire? How to build simple machines? How to travel between nearby stars. These are the first steps of civilization, not its culmination. Hours passed. The humans presented every achievement they could think of. Earth's art, science, philosophy, technology, and social systems. Each was dismissed as primitive, obvious, or irrelevant. Wu-Jin showed them recordings of Earth's greatest symphonies. Noise made by creatures who haven't learned to communicate properly was the verdict. So-Ra shared examples of human literature and poetry. The confused ramblings of beings too young to understand real meaning, came the response. Te-Min spoke about human values like compassion, cooperation, and hope. The naive idealism of children who haven't yet learned how harsh reality truly is. By the afternoon, the human delegation was exhausted and demoralized. They had come to this meeting with such hope. They had believed that showing their best achievements would earn them respect and partnership. Instead, they had learned that in the eyes of the galactic community, humanity was nothing. Less than nothing. They were an irritating distraction from important matters. Perhaps, Velthane said, as the session neared its end, you now understand why our offer regarding the Outer Rim territories is so generous. Few species receive any consideration from the Council after such a brief existence. The Outer Rim, Bora said suddenly, speaking for the second time. Tell us more about these territories. Several council members made sounds that might have been surprise. Apparently, they hadn't expected the quiet human to speak. The Outer Rim territories, explained the tree being, are frontier regions where young species can learn the basics of galactic civilization. They are educational environments. Educational how? Bor asked. They teach the realities of galactic life, Velthane answered. The need for protection, the value of guidance from experienced species, the dangers of attempting things beyond one's capabilities. Bora nodded slowly. I see. And the 80% administrative fee? Covers the cost of our oversight and protection, the metal being flowed smoothly. Young species often make expensive mistakes without proper guidance. Protection from what? Bora's voice was perfectly neutral. Pirates mostly, admitted. One of the insect beings. The Outer Rim can be challenging for inexperienced species. Pirates that you allow to operate there? Bora continued. The chamber fell silent. Apparently that was not a question they had expected. The Council does not allow anything, Velthane said coldly. We simply recognize that some regions are beyond immediate civilizing influence. The Aura nodded again. Of course. How foolish of me to suggest otherwise. But Te-Min caught something in her tone, a hardness that hadn't been there before. He looked at her carefully and saw something new in her eyes. She was thinking, planning, and that he realized might be dangerous. For someone, the session ended with Velthane giving humanity time to consider their generous offer. The humans were escorted back to their small quarters in the junior diplomatic section. As soon as the door closed behind them, Sora collapsed into a chair. That was horrible. They made us look like idiots. We're not idiots, Wujin said firmly. They're just very old and very set in their ways. Old and arrogant, Ra corrected. And possibly lying about a few things. Te-Min looked at her sharply. What do you mean? Bora was studying her tablet, reviewing data she had collected during the sessions. I've been analyzing their responses, their technology displays, their casual mentions of capabilities. Something doesn't add up, such as? They claim to have achieved all these technological marvels millions of years ago. But if that's true, why does their equipment look so ... ordinary? Why are their ships using propulsion systems we can identify and analyze? Wu Jin frowned. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting, Bo-Ra said carefully, that maybe being old doesn't automatically make you better. Maybe some of these ancient achievements are more reputation than reality. Taemin felt something stir in his chest. Not hope exactly, but something harder. Keep analyzing, he told Bo-Ra. Let's see what else doesn't add up. Outside their small quarters, the Great Galactic Council continued its ancient business, secure. In its power and certain of its superiority, they had no idea that the primitive humans were beginning to ask the right questions. The revelation came during what should have been a routine communication check with Earth, or was in her small quarters, filing her daily security report when an encrypted message arrived through the diplomatic channels. The sender was Admiral Dong Hyen Kang, commander of Earth's home defense fleet. The message was short and urgent. Priority Alpha, Council species fleet movements detected near human space. Massive buildup in sectors 7, 12, and 18. Estimated 1,200 vessels. Pattern suggests coordinated action. Advise immediate return to Earth. Bo-Ra stared at the screen for a full minute before the implications hit her. 1,200 ships. 3 different council species. All positioned near human space while humanity's diplomatic team was conveniently far away at Nexus Prime. She encrypted her own message and sent it back. Understood. Required detailed analysis. Do not take action without authorization. Then she walked quickly to Taemin's quarters. The ambassador was reviewing his notes for the next day's session when Bo-Ra knocked. One look at her face told him something was very wrong. We need to talk, she said, privately. And we need Wu Jin and Sora here too. 5 minutes later, the 4 humans were crowded into Taemin's small room with the door sealed and a privacy shield activated. Bo-Ra showed them the message from Admiral Kang. 1,200 ships? Wu Jin whispered. That's more than our entire fleet. 3 times more, Bo-Ra confirmed. And these aren't patrol vessels. According to our sensors, they're battle fleets. Heavy cruisers, dreadnoughts, carrier groups. This is an invasion force. Sora sank into a chair. But why? We haven't done anything to threaten them, haven't we? Taemin asked quietly. Think about what we've heard in the council sessions. They keep calling us young and primitive, but they invited us here. Why now? What changed? Bo-Ra pulled up a star chart on her tablet. I've been thinking about that. In the last 10 years, humanity has expanded to 47 star systems. We've established mining operations, research stations, and colonies. Our population has grown to over 30 billion across all worlds. That's still tiny compared to the galactic community, Wu Jin protested. But fast, Bo-Ra continued. Faster than any species in recorded galactic history. Most civilizations take thousands of years to spread to that many systems. We did it in decades. Taemin felt a cold understanding wash over him. They're not treating us like primitives because they think we're harmless. They're treating us like primitives because they want everyone to think we're harmless. While they position fleets to destroy us, Bo-Ra nodded grimly, this diplomatic invitation wasn't about negotiation. It was about getting our leadership away from Earth while they prepared their attack. Sora looked confused. But the outer rim offer, the trading rights. Why bother with any of that if they plan to attack us? Cover story, Taemin realized. After they destroy our colonies and cripple our fleet, they'll claim we rejected their generous offer and became hostile. They'll say they had no choice but to defend galactic civilization from aggressive primitives. Wu Jin was scrolling through data on his own tablet. It gets worse. I've been analyzing the technology displays they've shown us. Bo-Ra was right. Yesterday, something doesn't add up. What do you mean? Their ships, their station systems, even their personal equipment. It's advanced, yes, but not impossibly so. Some of their technology is actually inferior to ours in key areas. Bo-Ra leaned forward. Inferior how? Their faster-than-light drives are slower than ours. Their sensors have shorter range. Their computer systems process information at rates we surpassed 5 years ago. Urjin's voice grew more confident as he continued. They have the advantage of age and numbers, but technologically, we're not the primitives here. They've been coasting, Taemin said slowly, living off ancient achievements. While we've been innovating and advancing, they've been maintaining. Biora was already pulling up fleet communication protocols. I need to contact Admiral Kong. If I'm right about what's happening, Earth needs to know immediately. Wait, Taemin said. If we suddenly start sending military communications, the Council will know we've discovered their plan. And if we don't, our entire species might be wiped out while we sit here playing diplomat. The room fell silent as they considered their options. Finally, Taemin spoke. Send the message, but make it subtle. Don't let them know we know about the fleets. Just suggest that Earth should be prepared for various possibilities. Baora's fingers flew over her tablet, composing a message that would sound routine to anyone monitoring their communications, but would alert Admiral Kong to the true situation. Message sent, she reported. Now what? Now we continue playing our parts? Taemin decided. We attend tomorrow's session. We act like naive diplomats hoping for acceptance. And we buy Earth time to prepare. Prepare for what? Sora asked. You said it yourself, they outnumber us 3-1. Urjin was still studying his data. Actually, I'm not sure numbers matter as much as we think. Look at this. He showed them detailed analysis of the ship movements Admiral Kong had detected. These fleets are spread across 3 sectors. They're not coordinating their movements very well. And their formation patterns are dated. Outdated how? Ra asked. They're using battle formations that assume close-range combat and limited sensor capabilities. But modern warfare is fought at long range with precision targeting. It's like they're preparing to fight wars from 1,000 years ago. Bo-Ra studied the formations with a professional eye. You're right. These dispositions made sense when ships had to get close to be effective. But with current technology... She trailed off, calculating. What is it? Taemin asked. If our fleet commanders are smart about this, if they use our technological advantages properly, those numbers might not matter as much as we thought. A new message arrived from Admiral Kong. Ba-Ra read it quickly, then looked up with a strange expression. Earth's fleet isn't running, she announced. They single quotes repositioning. Repositioning where? I can't give details over this communication channel. But Admiral Khan says to tell you that Earth's response will be educational for the Council. Taemin felt something shift inside him. The fear and anger from the past 2 days was crystallizing into something harder and more focused. They think they're dealing with primitive children, he said quietly. They think they can threaten humanity while pretending to offer us charity. What are you thinking? Sora asked. Tae-Min stood and walked to the small window that showed the vast expanse of Nexus Prime. Millions of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked in this station. For thousands of years it had been the center of galactic power. The council members saw themselves as the rightful rulers of civilized space, but they had made a mistake. They had assumed that age meant wisdom and that numbers meant strength. They had dismissed humanity as too young and too small to matter. I'm thinking, Taemin said slowly, that it's time these ancient, wise beings learned something new. He turned back to his team. Tomorrow we go to the council session as planned. We listen to their final offer. We act appropriately surprised and grateful. And then? Ba-Ra asked. And then we show them exactly what kind of species they've been dealing with. Outside their quarters, the great station continued its endless rotation. In the council chambers, alien leaders planned the destruction of humanity with the casual certainty of beings who had never been challenged. They had no idea that the primitive species they planned to eliminate had been busy preparing lessons of their own in 3 sectors of space. Fleets that thought themselves invincible moved into position against an enemy they believed to be helpless. They were about to discover how wrong ancient wisdom could be, but first, there was one more diplomatic session to attend. One more performance to give. One more chance for the council to reveal exactly who they really were. Tay-Min suspected that tomorrow would be very educational indeed for everyone involved. The emergency meeting began at 0300 station time, when the corridors of Nexus Prime were at their quietest. Taemin had called his team together after receiving another coded message from Admiral Kong. This one had been brief but loaded with implications. Chess pieces in position. Awaiting your move. The four humans sat in a circle in Taemin's quarters, their tablets displaying star charts, fleet positions, and technical readouts. The privacy shield hummed softly, ensuring their conversation remained secure. Earth's fleet isn't just repositioning, Bur-Ora began without preamble. They've been moving for weeks. While we've been here playing diplomatic games, Admiral Kong has been playing a much bigger game. She brought up a holographic display showing the local galactic region. Red dots marked the Council fleet positions that had been detected. Blue dots showed where Earth's forces were supposed to be according to public records. Now look at this, Beora said, activating a second layer of the display. Green dots appeared scattered throughout the region. Far more than anyone expected. And they were in positions that made no sense for defensive operations. Those are our actual fleet positions? Wu Jin asked. According to Admiral Kong's coded message, yes. Earth's fleet has been using our superior FTL drives to move undetected through Council space. While the Council thinks our ships are conducting routine exercises near Earth, they're actually ... Ora paused, checking her calculations. Everywhere. Sora studied the display with growing amazement. How many ships does Earth have? I thought our entire fleet was maybe 400 vessels. It was, Bora confirmed, 6 months ago. But Earth's shipyards have been working overtime since we detected the first signs of Council interest in our space. We now have over 800 ships, and they're all equipped with our latest technology. Taemin felt a surge of pride mixed with apprehension. Earth had been preparing for this possibility while he was still hoping for peaceful cooperation. What kind of latest technology? He asked. Wujin activated his own tablet. Remember how I said Council technology was inferior to ours in some areas? I was being conservative? Our advantages are actually massive. He displayed technical comparisons. That made the gap clear. Human FTL drives were 3 times faster than Council equivalents. Human sensors had twice the range and 10 times the resolution. Human weapon systems could engage targets at distances the Council couldn't even detect. But the biggest advantage, Wu Jin continued, is our computer systems. Council ships rely on ancient artificial intelligence that's powerful but slow. Our quantum neural networks can process tactical information and respond to threats in milliseconds. In a space battle, milliseconds matter, Bo-Or added. The side that can see farther, think faster, and shoot more accurately has an overwhelming advantage regardless of numbers. So Ra was still studying the fleet positions. So Earth has been preparing for war while publicly hoping for peace? Earth has been preparing for survival, Tending corrected. The moment the Council invitation arrived, someone in Earth's military started asking the right questions. Why now? Why us? What do they really want? Bo-Or nodded. Admiral Kang isn't just a fleet commander. He's a strategic thinker. He's been planning for this scenario since the first alien contact decades ago. A new message arrived, this one longer and more detailed. Biora read it carefully, her expression growing more serious with each line. The Council fleets have begun. Final positioning, she reported. They're moving into attack formation around our border systems. Admiral Kong estimates they'll be ready to begin their assault within 48 hours. 48 hours, Taemin repeated. That means tomorrow's Council session is probably our last chance for a peaceful resolution, Sora finished. Is that what we want? Wu Jin asked quietly. A peaceful resolution? After everything they've said about us? After discovering they plan to destroy us? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Taemin realized they had reached the critical moment. Everything that happened next would determine not just the fate of their mission, but possibly the future of human civilization. Let me ask you something, he said slowly. What do you think happens if we accept their outer rim offer? If we bow down, pay their fees, and accept their judgment that we're primitive children? We survive, Sora said immediately. Humanity continues to exist, as slaves, Bora countered. As a client species forever dependent on council approval for everything we do. And it wouldn't stop there, Wujin added. Today it's 80% of our profits. Tomorrow it's 90%. Next year they'll decide we need council governors on our worlds to ensure proper behavior. Tay-Min nodded. They're not offering us partnership. They're offering us the choice between destruction and submission. Those are the only options they think we deserve. But there's a third option, Bora said quietly. War, Sora whispered. Not war, Tay-Min corrected. Revolution. The Council has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years because no one has challenged them. They've become comfortable in their power. Arrogant. They've forgotten that power has to be earned, not just inherited. He stood and walked to the window again, looking out at the vast station. How many species live here? How many civilizations? Across the galaxy accept Council rule because they think they have no choice? Hundreds, Wujin answered. Maybe thousands. And how many of them are truly happy with the current system? How many would prefer to govern themselves if they thought it was possible? Bora was beginning to understand. You're not just talking about defending humanity. You're talking about changing everything. The Council made this personal when they decided we were too dangerous to exist as free beings, Tay-Min said. But it's bigger than just us. This is about what kind of galaxy we want to live in. Sora looked troubled. But even if we can defeat their fleets, even if our technology is superior, they have thousands of years of history. Established relationships, embedded power structures, all of which depend on the belief that they're invincible, Tay-Min replied. What happens to that belief when a primitive species demonstrates that the Council can be beaten? A new understanding was dawning on all of them. This wasn't just about humanity's survival anymore. It was about proving that the old order could be challenged and changed. Admiral Kong's message mentioned chess pieces, Bora said. I think I understand now. This isn't just about military positioning. He's been setting up something much more complex. She brought up a new display showing the political structure of the galaxy. The Council controls the major trade routes, the communication networks, the financial systems. But all of that depends on their military power. If their fleets are suddenly revealed to be obsolete, their entire power structure becomes vulnerable, Wujin finished. Every species they've bullied into submission starts asking questions, Sora added, her voice growing excited. Every colony that's paid unfair taxes starts wondering if they really have to. Tay-Min felt the pieces falling into place. Tomorrow's Council session isn't about negotiation anymore. It's about giving them one last chance to show the galaxy who they really are. And then, Bora asked, and then we show the galaxy who we really are. He turned back to his team, and they could see the decision in his eyes. The fear and uncertainty of the past few days had crystallized into something harder and more dangerous. We're going to withdraw from negotiations tomorrow, he announced. Publicly, dramatically, we're going to make it clear that humanity rejects their terms and their authority. They'll be furious, Sora warned. Good, angry people make mistakes. And I want them to make their biggest mistake where everyone can see it. Bora was already composing a message to Admiral Kong. He'll need to know our timeline. Tell him we'll be ready to depart Nexus Prime tomorrow evening, and tell him... Tay-Min paused, choosing his words carefully. Tell him that humanity is ready to teach the galaxy some new lessons about power and respect. As Bora sent the message, Wujin was reviewing technical specifications. If we're really doing this, I should plant some surveillance devices in the council chamber. We'll want records of what happens after we leave. Good thinking. Sora, I want you to start reaching out to some of the minor species delegations. Quietly, plant some seeds about alternatives to council rule. And you? Beora Asta-Te-Min looked out at the great station one more time. I'm going to write a speech. One that the galaxy will remember. The next few hours passed in careful preparation. Each team member had tasks that would position humanity for what was coming. They were no longer just diplomats hoping for acceptance. They were revolutionaries preparing to change the galaxy. As Station Dawn approached, Taemin reviewed his speech one final time. It was simple, direct, and designed to force the Council to reveal their true nature before the entire galactic community. Are we ready for this? Sora asked as they prepared to leave for the final session. No, Taemin admitted, but we're going to do it anyway. What if we're wrong? What if we start something we can't finish? Taemin looked at his team, these 3 humans who had come so far from home in hopes of building bridges between worlds. Now they were about to burn those bridges and build something entirely new. Then at least we'll face the consequences as free beings, he said. Not as slaves begging for scraps from. The council chamber felt different as the humans entered for what they knew would be their final session. The vast space that had once seemed impressive now felt oppressive. The raised platforms where the council members sat looked less like seats of wisdom and more like thrones of arrogance. Taemin carried himself differently too. The hopeful diplomat was gone, replaced by someone harder and more dangerous. His team noticed the change and drew strength from it. They were no longer supplicants begging for acceptance. They were humans with a job to do, Christarch Velthanes. Crystalline form caught the chamber's lights as it spoke. The human delegation returns. We trust you have given proper consideration to our generous offer regarding the Outer Rim territories. We have given it all the consideration it deserves, Taemin replied. His voice carefully neutral. Several council members made sounds that might have been satisfaction. They had expected the humans to accept their terms. After 3 days of humiliation, what choice did the primitives have? Excellent, clicked one of the insect beings. The sooner young species learn their proper place, the better for all concerned. Indeed, swirled the gas entity. Perhaps this experience will teach humanity the value of wisdom over ambition. Taemin stepped forward to the center of the speaking area. Behind him, his team took positions that would give them clear views of all council members. Ujin's hand rested casually near his tablet, ready to activate the recording devices he had hidden throughout the chamber. Honored council members, Taemin began, humanity came to Nexus Prime with hopes of joining the galactic community as partners and equals. We came offering friendship, cooperation, and mutual benefit. How touching, rumbled the tree being. Youth is always so idealistic. We presented our achievements, our culture, our vision for the future. We hope to find common ground with beings we believe to be wise and experienced. And instead you found your betters, the metal entity flowed smugly. A valuable lesson for any young species, Taemin nodded slowly. Indeed, we have learned valuable lessons. We have learned exactly what the Galactic Council truly represents. Something in his tone made Velthane's crystal form shift uncomfortably. And what is that supposed to mean? It means, Taemin said clearly, that humanity formally withdraws from all negotiations with the Galactic Council. The chamber fell silent. It was the kind of silence that comes when something unexpected and potentially dangerous has just happened. Withdraws? Velthane's voice carried a note of disbelief. You reject our offer? We reject your authority, Taemin corrected. We reject your condescension. We reject your assumption that age grants you the right to dictate terms to free beings. The silence shattered as multiple council members began speaking at once. Outrageous. Primitive insolence. They dare silence. Velthane's crystal form blazed with light and the chamber fell quiet again. You forget yourself, human. You forget who you are addressing. I know exactly who I'm addressing, Taemin replied calmly. I'm addressing the self-appointed rulers of a galaxy who have grown so comfortable in their power that they've forgotten what real strength looks like. Beora stepped forward slightly, her hand near her communication device. On Earth and throughout human space, Admiral Kong's fleets were waiting for her signal. You speak of strength? The insect being's mandibles clicked rapidly. What strength could primitives possibly possess? You speak of wisdom gained through age? The gas entity swirled angrily. What wisdom could children teach their elders? Taman smiled, and somehow that smile was more unsettling than any threat would have been. Perhaps, he said quietly, it's time you learned. He gestured to his team, and they began moving toward the chamber exit. The council members watched in shock as the humans simply turned their backs and walked away. You cannot simply leave. Velthane's voice cracked like breaking crystal. The council has not dismissed you. Temin paused at the chamber entrance and looked back. With respect, Christarch, we dismiss ourselves. Humanity has no need for your permission to exist. This is not over. The tree being's voice rustled with fury. You think you can reject the council's authority and simply walk away? You will learn the consequences of such arrogance? I'm sure we will, Temin agreed. The question is whether you're prepared for the lessons we might teach in return. The humans left the chamber, leaving behind 12 council members in various states of shock and rage. Behind them, Wujin's hidden recording devices continued to capture every word as the council's civilized mask finally slipped away. Insufferable. Mammals, snarled the metal entity. How dare they speak to their betters with such disrespect? This cannot be allowed to stand, clicked the insect swarm. Other young species will see this defiance and think they too can reject proper authority. The fleets are already in position, Velthane said coldly. Perhaps it is time to remind the galaxy why the Council's rule is absolute. Yes, agreed the gas entity. Let humanity serve as an example. Let their worlds burn as a warning to others who might consider such foolishness. Agreed, rumbled the tree being. The human species will be eliminated as a threat to galactic stability. Their defiance ends now. The recording devices captured every word, every casual discussion of genocide, every revelation of the Council's true nature. The evidence would soon be transmitted across the galaxy, showing every civilized being exactly what kind of leaders they had been following. Meanwhile, the human delegation made their way through Nexus Prime's corridors toward their docking bay. They moved with purpose but without apparent haste. To any observer, they looked like diplomats concluding unsuccessful negotiations. Recording devices are active, Wujin reported quietly. We're getting everything. Good, Tamin replied. The galaxy needs to hear what they really think of lesser species. Our shuttle is prepped for departure, Bura added. Admiral Kong is standing by. As they reached their small diplomatic vessel, Taemin took one last look at the massive station that housed the Galactic Council. For thousands of years, it had been the center of power and authority. Today, that was beginning to change. Sora, he said as they boarded their ship, send our final diplomatic message to the Council. What should it say? She asked. Thank them for their educational experience. Tell them we understand perfectly where humanity stands in their view of galactic order, and inform them that we will pursue our own path among the stars. The message was sent as their shuttle cleared the station's docking bay. It was polite, formal, and completely diplomatic. It was also a declaration of independence that the Council would not fully understand until it was too late. As they flew away from Nexus Prime, Taemin activated his personal communicator and sent a single word to Admiral Kong. Proceed. Throughout Council space, that word activated plans that had been months in the making. Human ships that had been waiting in hidden positions began moving toward their targets. Advanced sensors started mapping Council fleet positions with unprecedented accuracy. Quantum computers began calculating optimal engagement strategies. How long until they realize what's happening? Sora asked. Not long, Ora predicted. They'll try to contact their fleets within the hour. When they discover what's waiting for them, by then it won't matter, Taemin said. The lesson will have already begun. Their shuttle reached the edge of Nexus Prime's sensor range just as emergency. Klaxons began sounding throughout the station. Council members were rushing to their communication centers, trying to understand. Why their military commanders weren't responding to urgent messages. They were about to discover that the primitive humans had been far more prepared than anyone. Imagine in the council chamber. Velthane's crystalline form was blazing with fury as reports arrived of impossible sensor contacts throughout council space. Human ships were appearing everywhere, far more than should have existed, in positions that should have been impossible to reach undetected. How? The insect beings clicked frantically. How did mammals achieve such coordination? It doesn't matter how, Velthane declared. Alert all fleets. Destroy the human ships immediately. Show the galaxy what happens to species that defy the Council. The orders went out across the galactic communication network. Every Council ship was commanded to engage human vessels on sight. It was to be a quick, decisive demonstration of superior power. It was also exactly what Admiral Kang had been waiting for. The battle for galactic freedom was about to begin, and humanity had already won the first engagement simply by forcing the Council to reveal their true nature to the entire galaxy. As the human shuttle jumped to hyperspace, carrying with it recordings that would change galactic politics forever, Taemin allowed himself a small smile. The Council had called humanity primitive. They were about to learn how dangerous primitives could be when they decided to stop asking for permission and start taking what they deserved. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human determination had begun. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came when Nexus Prime's long-range sensors detected impossible readings. Ships were appearing throughout the station's defensive perimeter, materializing out of empty space like ghosts becoming solid, but these weren't ghosts. They were human vessels, sleek and deadly, their stealth systems shutting down in perfect synchronization, dozens of them. Then hundreds. The defensive grid that had protected the Galactic Council's seat of power for millennia suddenly found itself surrounded. In the council chamber, Christarch Velthane's crystalline form was blazing with confusion and rage, as reports flooded in from panicked station commanders. Impossible, clicked the insect beings, their mandibles chattering with distress. Our sensors showed nothing. How did so many ships approach undetected? It doesn't matter how, Velthane declared, though its voice carried a note of uncertainty that had never been there before. Activate all defensive systems. Alert the home fleets. Destroy these human ships immediately. Orders flashed across the Council's military networks. Every weapons platform on Nexus Prime powered up. Every defensive ship scrambled to battle stations. The Council's response was swift and overwhelming, or it should have been. The first indication that something had gone wrong came when the station's communication systems began experiencing technical difficulties. Messages to Council fleets went unanswered. Commands to defensive installations failed to transmit. The vast network that connected the Council's military forces across the galaxy simply stopped working. Communication array malfunction, reported a panicked technician. We're being jammed, but the source is ... everywhere. That's when Admiral Donghain Kong's voice filled the council chamber, transmitted on all frequencies simultaneously. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, his voice was calm, professional, and utterly confident. This is Admiral Kong of the United Earth Fleet. I believe you've been having some difficulty reaching your military commanders. The chamber erupted in chaos. How had a human transmission penetrated their most secure communications? How was he speaking to them at all? I thought you might appreciate a brief explanation, Admiral Kong continued as if he could hear their questions. Your communication networks are indeed experiencing technical problems. We've been studying your systems for quite some time, and we found them remarkably ... predictable. On the chamber's main display, a tactical readout appeared showing the space around Nexus Prime. Red dots marked Council defensive positions. Blue dots showed the human ships that had appeared around them. There were far more blue dots than anyone had thought possible. How ... whispered the gas entity, its form swirling with agitation. How many ships do they have? More than you counted on, Admiral Kong's voice answered, somehow responding to the whispered question. You see, while your intelligence services We're tracking our official fleet movements. Our actual vessels were using more advanced routes to reach their positions. The tactical display zoomed out, showing human ship positions throughout Council space. Not just around Nexus Prime, but everywhere. Human vessels had appeared in orbit around every major Council homeworld, every important military base, every strategic installation. "This is impossible," Velthane's voice cracked like breaking crystal. "You cannot have moved so many ships without our knowledge." "Actually, we've been moving them for weeks," Admiral Kong replied pleasantly. "Your sensor networks are quite impressive for their age, but they were designed to detect technology from your era. Human stealth systems operate on principles your sensors weren't built to recognize." Ba'ora, monitoring the situation from the human shuttle now safely in hyperspace, allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Admiral Kang had been planning this operation since the day the Council's invitation arrived. While the diplomats played their part at Nexus Prime, human fleets had been ghosting through Council space like invisible sharks. "What do you want?" Velthane demanded. "Want?" Admiral Kong's voice carried a note of mild surprise. "We don't want anything from you. We're simply here to provide an educational demonstration." Without warning, several unmanned Council patrol ships around Nexus Prime went dark. Their engines died, their weapons powered down, their life support systems shut off. The ships were completely disabled but undamaged, their crews unharmed but helpless. "A demonstration of what?" snarled the metal entity. "Of how remarkably outdated your military technology has become," Admiral Kong explained. "Those ships were disabled by directed electromagnetic pulses calibrated specifically for your shielding frequencies. We studied your defensive systems quite thoroughly during our diplomatic visit. More Council ships went dark. The pattern was surgical and precise, each vessel targeted and neutralized without violence. It was a demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority delivered with clinical efficiency." "Stop this," Velthane commanded. "We demand you cease this attack immediately." "Attack?" Admiral Kang sounded genuinely puzzled. "This isn't an attack. An attack would look quite different." Suddenly, the space around one of the disabled Council ships lit up with weapons fire. But the shots came from nowhere, striking empty space with pinpoint accuracy. Each beam passed within meters of the helpless vessel, close enough to register on their sensors, but careful not to cause damage. "That," Admiral Kong explained, "would be an attack. Notice the difference. Our weapons can target your ships from ranges at which your sensors cannot even detect our vessels. We could destroy your entire defensive fleet without your gunners ever seeing a target to shoot at." The demonstration continued with terrifying precision. Human ships remained invisible while their weapons lit up space around disabled Council vessels. The message was clear. "We can see you, but you cannot see us. We can hit you, but you cannot hit us." "How is this possible?" whispered the tree being, its voice rustling with fear. "Superior technology, superior tactics, and superior planning," Admiral Kong replied. "While your species have been resting on ancient achievements, humanity has been innovating. Our weapon systems, sensor arrays, and defensive measures are decades ahead of anything in your current arsenal." The tactical display updated again, showing that similar demonstrations were occurring simultaneously throughout Council space. Human fleets were revealing themselves around every major Council world, each one displaying the same overwhelming technological advantage. "But you're primitives," the insect beings clicked desperately. "You've only been in space for centuries." "Yes," Admiral Kong agreed. "Centuries of constant advancement, innovation, and improvement. While you've been governing based on past glories, we've been building future capabilities." The Council chamber fell silent as the full implications hit them. The species they had dismissed as primitive children possessed military technology that made their own forces obsolete. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely, and they hadn't even noticed. "What happens now?" Velthane asked, its crystalline voice barely audible. "Now you learn what it feels like to negotiate from a position of weakness, Admiral." Kong replied, "Ambassador Park sends his regards, by the way. He wanted me to thank you for the educational experience you provided during his visit." A new voice joined the transmission, Tamin speaking from the human shuttle. Honored council members, I hope you found this demonstration as educational as our visit to your station. We certainly learned a great deal about your true character during our negotiations. What do you mean? Velthane stammered. We mean the recordings, Wujin's voice added to the transmission. Every word you spoke after we left your chamber, every casual discussion of genocide, every revelation of your true feelings about lesser species. The council members felt a collective chill as they realized their private conversations had been monitored and recorded. Those recordings are currently being transmitted across the galaxy, Sora's voice continued. Every species under council rule is learning exactly what their leaders think of them. Every world paying council taxes is discovering how they're really viewed. Every civilization that accepted council authority is hearing you discuss them like livestock. You cannot, Velthane protested weakly. We already have. Tamin's voice was firm. The galaxy is learning the truth about council rule. They're discovering that their wise, ancient leaders are actually arrogant bullies who view every other species as inferior primitives to be exploited. Admiral Kong's voice returned. Which brings us to humanity's terms for the future of galactic civilization. Terms? The gas entity swirled frantically. You're dictating terms to us? We're offering you a choice, Admiral Kong corrected. The same choice you offered humanity, in fact. You can accept our generous offer, or you can face the consequences of your decision. The irony was not lost on the council members. They were being given the same ultimatum they had presented to countless species over the millennia. What are your terms? Velthane asked. Immediate withdrawal of all council fleets from human space, Admiral Kong began. Recognition of human sovereignty over our current territories. Dissolution of the current council structure and replacement with a new galactic organization based on actual equality rather than ancient hierarchies. And if we refuse? The insect beings clicked. Then you'll discover what happens when The hour passed in tense silence aboard Nexus Prime. Council members huddled in emergency sessions, their voices raised in desperate argument while human ships maintained their positions around every major council installation across the galaxy. The tactical displays showed a sight that would have been unthinkable just days earlier. The mighty Galactic Council's forces completely surrounded and helpless. Christarch Velthane stood before the great window of the council chamber, its crystalline form reflecting the lights of disabled ships floating dead in space around their station. For the first time in its millennia-long existence, the Prime Speaker faced a force it could not intimidate, bribe, or simply ignore. Time remaining, 15 minutes. Admiral Kong's voice announced across all communication channels, reminding them that humanity's patience was not infinite. We cannot simply surrender to primitives, the metal entity declared, its form flowing with agitation. The Council has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. We cannot abandon that authority because of one species' temporary technological advantage. Temporary? The gas being swirled frantically. You saw their demonstration? Their weapons can strike our ships from ranges we cannot even detect. Their stealth technology makes our sensors useless. How is this temporary? Because technology can be copied, the tree being rustled confidently. Once we understand their methods, we can adapt. We can improve. We have resources they lack. Do we? Velthane asked quietly. Look at these displays. How many ships do they have in our space? How did they coordinate such a massive operation without our intelligence services detecting anything? The insect beings clicked nervously. Our intelligence networks are the finest in the galaxy. We have monitoring stations throughout Council space. It should have been impossible for them to move so many vessels without detection. Unless, Velthane continued, our intelligence networks are as outdated as our military technology. Unless our monitoring stations were designed to detect threats from our own technological level, not from species that have advanced beyond us. The possibility hung in the air like a poison cloud. The council members had built their power on the assumption that their technology was superior because it was older. They had never considered that newer might mean better. 5 minutes remaining. Admiral Kang announced. We have to fight, the metal entity declared. Even if we cannot win immediately, we must resist. If we surrender now, every species in the galaxy will think they can challenge Council authority. They already think that, Velthane pointed out bitterly. The human recordings have been broadcasting for the past hour. Every world under Council rule has heard us discuss their populations like livestock. Every species we've taxed and controlled has learned what we really think of them. The communication systems crackled with incoming messages from across Council space. Not from military commanders, those channels remained jammed, but from planetary governments, species representatives, and even individual worlds. Incoming transmission from the Kepler system, a technician reported nervously. Put it through. Velthane commanded. The voice that filled the chamber belonged to Governor Yansik Nam of the human colony on Kepler 442b. Nexus Prime, this is Kepler Station. We're observing several Council ships in our system. They appear to be ... disabled. Are you experiencing technical difficulties? The tone was polite, concerned, even helpful. It was also clearly mocking. The Kepler colony is under Council protection, Velthane replied stiffly. Our ships are conducting routine operations. Oh, I see, Governor Nam continued pleasantly. It's just that they're not moving, and they're not responding to our traffic. Control requests. We wanted to make sure they weren't in distress. Before Velthane could respond, another transmission came through. Nexus Prime, this is the Velen Confederation. We've been reviewing the educational materials recently broadcast regarding Council policies. We wanted to discuss some modifications to our current agreements. Then another, Council Station. This is New Arcturus. We're seeing human ships in our system, and they're offering very interesting trade deals. Much better than current Council terms. And another, Prime Speaker Velthane, this is the Drakmor Republic. We've decided to withdraw from Council jurisdiction effective immediately. The Human Free Worlds Alliance has offered us membership with much more favorable conditions. The messages kept coming. Dozens of systems, hundreds of worlds, entire species declaring independence from Council authority or demanding renegotiation of their agreements. The recordings of the Council's private discussions had shattered the illusion of benevolent leadership that had held their empire together. 1 minute remaining, Admiral Kang announced. Velthane realized with crystal clarity that they had already lost, even if they could somehow defeat the human fleets, which seemed impossible. Their political authority was crumbling. The species they had ruled for millennia were abandoning them in droves. Answer me this, Admiral Kang, Velthane called out to the communication system. What happens to the galaxy if the Council falls? Who maintains order? Who prevents wars between species? Who regulates trade and prevents exploitation? Admiral Kang's response was immediate. The same beings who maintain order now, the individual species themselves. The difference is they'll do it through cooperation rather than submission. You're talking about anarchy, the insect beings clicked desperately. We're talking about freedom, came the reply. The right of every species to govern itself without asking permission from self-appointed overlords. Time expired, Admiral Kang announced. The displays around the Council chamber lit up with new tactical information. The human ships that had been holding position began moving with coordinated precision, but instead of attacking, they were leaving. What are they doing? Whispered the gas entity. Admiral Kang's voice provided the answer. We're departing. Council space. All human vessels are withdrawing to the territories of the new Free Worlds Alliance. You single quotes read ... leaving? Velthane couldn't hide its confusion. Our business here is complete, Admiral Kang replied. We came to demonstrate that the Council's military supremacy was an illusion. That demonstration is finished. We have no interest in ruling species that don't wish to be ruled by us. But what about your demands, your ultimatums? Oh, those were suggestions, not demands. Admiral Kang's voice carried a note of amusement. The choice of how to respond is entirely yours, just as it has always been entirely ours. The human ships continued their withdrawal, disappearing back into the stealth systems that had hidden them so effectively. Within minutes, the space around Nexus Prime looked almost normal again, except for the dozens of disabled council vessels that served as permanent reminders of what had just occurred. "They're not conquering us," the tree being said with wonder. "They're just leaving us alone. After destroying our authority," the metal entity pointed out bitterly. "No, Valthane. Corrected. After revealing that our authority was always an illusion. The only power we ever really had was the power species gave us by believing we were superior." A new transmission arrived, this one from Earth itself. Taemin's voice filled the chamber, calm and professional. "Prime Speaker Valthane, this is Ambassador Park. I wanted to thank you once again for the educational experience you provided during our diplomatic mission." "What do you want, human?" Valthane asked wearily. "To extend an invitation," Taemin replied. "The Free Worlds Alliance will be holding its founding conference next month. Every species in the galaxy is invited to send representatives, including yours. You would invite us? After this? The alliance is based on the principle that every species deserves a voice in galactic affairs," Taemin explained. "That includes the former council species. You're welcome to participate as equals with all other civilizations." "As equals," Valthane repeated the phrase slowly. "Not as leaders, not as superior beings, as equals. Exactly. No species rules over others. No civilization claims authority based on age or past achievements. Every voice carries the same weight." The offer hung in the air while the council members considered it. They could cling to their failing authority and watch their empire crumble around them. Or they could accept a new role in a galaxy where leadership was earned rather than inherited. "And if we refuse?" the insect beings asked. "Then you refuse?" Taemin replied simply. "That's your choice to make. The alliance will exist with or without your participation. Other species will find ways to cooperate and thrive without council oversight." The chamber fell silent as the full implications became clear. They weren't being conquered or destroyed. They were being made irrelevant. The galaxy was moving on without them, creating new systems and new relationships that didn't require their permission or authority. "How long do we have to decide?" Valthane asked. "As long as you need," Taemin answered. "The invitation remains open permanently. When you're ready to participate as equals rather than rulers, the alliance will welcome you." The transmission ended, leaving the council members alone with their thoughts and their disabled ships. Outside, the galaxy was already changing. Species that had accepted council rule for thousands of years were declaring independence and forming new alliances. Trade agreements were being renegotiated on equal terms. The rigid hierarchy that had defined 6 months after the events at Nexus Prime, the galaxy looked completely different. The massive space station that had once been the center of galactic power now floated quietly in space, its purpose uncertain. Many of its sections stood empty, as species that had once maintained embassies there recalled their representatives. The council chambers where 12 ancient species had dictated terms to the galaxy echoed with silence. The revolution had not been violent. There had been no great battles, no destruction of worlds, no mass casualties. Instead, it had been a revolution of ideas, the simple concept that no species had the right to rule over others simply because they were older or claimed to be wiser. Taemin stood in the observation deck of New Geneva Station, the newly constructed headquarters of the Free Worlds Alliance. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see ships from dozens of species coming and going. Sleek vessels from the former council races, mingled with crude but functional ships from species that had only recently achieved spaceflight. All were welcome here. "The latest membership reports," Sora said, joining him at the window. She carried a tablet displaying statistics that would have been impossible to imagine just months earlier. 412 species have officially joined the alliance. Another 200 have observer status and are considering full membership. And the former council species? Taemin